Turns out Medusa effects only last 2,500 years, you're now waking up in an art gallery. It was a strange feeling, being turned to stone. I felt vaguely aware of what was around me and I still somewhat had a sense of touch. Medusa was a surprisingly good caretaker, I missed her gentle touch as she polished my form. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I am Marcellus Valentius, I was a legate of the glorious Roman Empire. Wonder how it's doing? Knowing Caesar, probably not very well. Anyway, I've been stuck in my own head for a while, thinking, musing, getting hungry and losing that hunger. I was getting used to be a statue, being a part of Medusa's collection and whatnot, before something happened and she stopped cleaning is. But then the strangest thing happened, I felt myself getting moved. I don't know who or what was moving me, or where I was going, but hopefully I would be put on display somewhere nice. Sure, I'm a man, but I'm also a statue for eternity, you've got to at least want to be somewhere nice. Since I always had a vague sense of what's around me, I could tell I was no longer in a cave, instead, where I was kept dry and very well maintained. By the gods was it nice getting cleaned again. I could feel the sun hit me at surprisingly specific times. It was never gradual like I remember, it would just be off, and then on, then off again. The god, Saul must have been having a phase. Anyways, I digress again. As I stayed in my new spot, I noticed that my senses were returning more and more, eventually I could even hear. People were speaking a very strange language, it sounded like Latin, but not Latin, if you know what I mean. I took time to listen and hear what they said, trying to pick up on patterns. I never could figure out their language, but they all seemed happy with my appearance, so that made me a happy statue. Eventually even my eyesight started to return, it came back much quicker than my hearing. I could see that I wasn't outside, I was in a rather large building, grand and glorious at least from my angle. Maybe I was put in some ruler's home? Who knows? Well, I guess the ruler does, but I sure didn't. Then, one night. I'm going to call it a night since Saul had the sun off at the time. I realized I could move. Turning my head somewhat stiffly, I was able to notice that the curse was starting to recede. Sighing in a feeling of relief as I was finally able to scratch an itch on my nose that I had long forgotten about, I took the opportunity to look at my surroundings better. This definitely wasn't a ruler's palace. Taking some careful steps from the platform they had me on, I tried to stretch out the various kinks in my body. I began to walk through my home, looking at the metal plaques with a strange light coming from them. Unable to read them, I just looked at the items. Found a suit of armor, was very well maintained. Didn't need it though as I still had mine and my sword as well. I was intrigued by the sights, eventually wandering out of the palace section, finding it change from stuff I recognized to items beyond my imagination. A metal box with barrels sticking out the sides. Wooden sticks with inlaid metal tubes. Still don't know what those are. Though that when I get back home I definitely should bring these back to my army, show off what I've found and see if we can replicate it. It was then I heard a voice, someone shouting in that language I didn't fully get. Though his wasn't one of admiration, it sounded quite upset. He was holding this strangest contraption, a tiny little saw in his hand. Out of self-defense I drew my sword and got ready for a fight, trying to ask where I was. Man, was my throat sore, it caused me to let my guard down as I tried to cough out words. Next thing I knew, I was in these metal cuffs and sat in this metal chair in a room with dull painted bricks. And that's how I got here. It's amazing that they found someone who spoke Latin like me. Though I do still want to ask you about your garb. What did you say you were again? A doctor? You don't look like you were trained to do medicine. Or does doctor mean something new now? End log of interview with Marcellus Valentius, renamed to Marcus Valentine, ex-legate to Rome and one of the now many statues who had been cursed by Medusa. The search is on for more men out of time to get them into a safe place we can reintegrate them into society with.